I wanted to get on and show you something that I've been working on for the last month or two. I signed up to run 6 games of ICRPG at a local convention this week. I'm running some games at SaltCon up here in Utah, and I wanted to put together a kit to help me feel prepared, run all those games, and have something nice and easy to grab and go as I play through a couple days. And so what I've done is I took a design from Meadbeard out on the Runehammer Forums, who had designed a dungeon in a suitcase, and I modified it to be a DM kit in a box. And I wanted to show you kind of what I've done and what I've included in the kit, and hopefully see how I've prepared for the games that I'm running. I'm running 4 games of Orvold's Tower, 1 game of Doom Vault, and 1 game of Last Flight of the Red Sword. So what you'll see is I have this box that I got from Harbor Freight, and I gutted it according to Meadbeard's design. And when you open it up, the first thing you'll see is the play terrain, the play surface, along with my Orvold's Tower maps. I designed these out for VTT, and I just printed out the same maps and printed them at a large scale, and then glued them together to be a little poster. And so I can have each one of these as my play mats that I'll just throw out onto the play surface as they move through the tower. So you can just see how I've kind of got each of the rooms they're going down. But underneath that, got the general play surface. So I've got the bottom surface and the top surface, the lid and the base, lined with a ultimate dungeon terrain square, following DungeonCraft's kind of painting method and style. And I have storage underneath each side. So the first thing I'll show you is what's underneath the lid. Each of these tiles just kind of slides into place, and you can see it's just 1-inch foam painted up. And underneath in the lid, I've got my character sheets and kind of paper notes. And so what I've done is I created packets for each game of pre-generated character sheets and map tiles in the case of Last Flight, along with some notes. And so, for example, Last Flight, I've got my Xeno Dead Zone black and white map tiles. I printed out a custom selection so that I can rebuild the red sword in Dead Zone tiles. So you got things like the med bay, you've got the bridge, you've got the astrophysics. So I'll use this as the map, and I can lay this down here on the play surface, or I can lay them out on the table in general if I want to have a little bit more space. And then underneath that, I have my packets of pre-generated characters. Each of these packets is 6 characters. I designed a custom kind of convention sheet. It's simplified. It doesn't have all the slots of the full character sheet, but that's okay. They're all one-shots for new players at a convention. So I've included names, little backstories, their classes. I've already calculated out their stats, and then following advice from the Discord, I included 4 pieces of loot and 2 abilities. Most of the time, it's usually a starter ability and something from the milestone paths, World's Book or Master Edition. So I've got 6 there. But what I've also done, this idea came from Alex Alvarez, who learned it from DM Scotty, is I've included character art for each packet. And the idea is that instead of handing new players character sheets and then having them try to decide what to play based off of stats and things that they don't quite understand, I'm just going to lay out character art and have them pick based off that and include their minis there. That way they can choose the character just based off the character rather than trying to decipher stats. Hopefully that'll make it for an easier process. And I'm excited for that. The other thing that I'm excited for is that each one of these packets is a different combination of 6 characters. Reason for that is I'm running all 6 of these games, and I wanted to add some variety for myself. So they get different characters for each session, and then I'm running 4 players per session. That means they'll only choose 4 out of the 6, which means there's plenty of combinations and plenty of variety and plenty of team dynamics that could be created based off their selection. And so that's more of a selfish thing for me. I wanted to have that variety, so I put in the extra work to come up with different packets for each adventure. I also included some extras in case someone shows up that I wasn't planning on, just to be safe. And lastly, up here in the lid, I have my GM bullets and overviews. I just printed these from the adventure packet based off the adventures. I thought to myself, yeah, I could rewrite everything, but let's think smart, not hard. And so I'm pretty familiar with these adventures. So just printing these out is enough of a reminder of what's happening in each scene, and I'll pretty much be able to run these straight out of the book to make it easy for myself. And so those are my papers. The lid can slide right back up in, and then when we're playing, we can just lay this down flat, and we can have the double surface just moving both sides. Additionally, this is elevated above the table, so we can play here without fear of any snacks or drinks or dice or just kind of getting in the way. And plus, this can be the elevated campfire for the whole table. And I'm excited to kind of centralize the table around play surface. Then under here is my main storage. So again, it's just another tile. And I've got compartments for various things, and so I'll just kind of go through them and what I've packed together here. The first thing that I have is a custom Orvold Towers World Timer Tracker. It's just a little piece of paper that I printed and folded, and I've made this little counter here. And so as the world timer kind of goes down, I just slide this on down towards the end for all the table to see, and so that can keep track of everything really simple and in a fun way for that adventure. Then what I've got here is I've got target cards from the forums, and this let me focus in on that. Okay, I've got target cards, so I can just lay these out. Plain view includes the easy and hard options, and so hopefully that will make the targets visible to players. I've also got some bags of dice. I'm going to have a total of 4. I want to make sure that there's enough dice, loaner dice, for all players to have some. I'm sure they'll bring their own, but just in case. I've got a set of half dozen doors out of foam that I can use in the adventure. 3D terrain. I've got a few little switches. Variety. Last flight. Switches there made of popsicle sticks and toothpicks. I've got a few custom, just dungeon stackers made from old foam. Here, 2 sets of those. I have dungeon tiles, just keepsakes there. Wizard, because always got to have a wizard lock. Then what I have up here is a hard case dice set. My DM dice. I found this case at a thrift store for 50 cents. And what I have is my own set of dice. I've got my awesome monomake dice. And then I've got some Spanish doubloons to use as hero coins. So close that up. Keep that nice and safe for me. Travel. Then what I have beneath that is collections of index cards. I went through all 4 volumes and printed out custom collections each adventure. And what I like to do with these when I play at the table is I'll print out these custom collections, and then I will order them in sequence of the adventure. That way these can be my ongoing spark notes for the adventure. So for like Doomvault, first thing it is, you go to Nordberg. Below that, you head down to Hag's Roost, which is a cliff ledge, and they're above some crashing waves and sharp rocks. And at the end of Hag's Roost is a cave with some runes on it, and so on and so forth. And it goes through the entire adventure. just in order. That way it can be a reminder as I flip out a card onto the table to describe, the very next card is going to remind me of what's coming up, and I can start kind of mentally preparing myself to describe what's next. I have one of those for each adventure. Then I've got Spud, my good luck GM goblin. He comes with me, so set him over here. And then I have pencil bag with Sharpies and pencils to share with the table and for myself, because I also have classic index cards. I have blank ones, and I've got ones that I've already filled out for the monsters. And what I've done is I've translated the monsters into these index card forms with their attacks, their actions, their hearts, their roll bonuses, and then I've included a tactics list from Viking Death Squad for the same thing, so that I can quickly just roll tactics for each of the monsters as we fight them and we face them. And if I don't have something, I'll just pull out a Sharpie and draw on my own. The other thing that I have for 3D terrain is I've got some BlackMagicCraft brick pillars. Really love these. It's just add some verticality to flush things out on the play surface. I've got 6 of those all designed out. The other half, what I have is another 2 bags of dice, and I want to show you a little bit more about this one. I separated it out in its own color to remind me. I've heard this trick before and I really enjoyed it, but in case there are players who aren't super familiar with RPGs in general or dice, I put together a collection of multicolored dice, and the idea is that when I say, hey, give me a d20 check plus your stat, they go, what dice do I need to roll? What dice is a d20? I can just say the white one, or roll ultimate, it's the yellow one. And I just wanted to make the game a little bit more accessible for new players. And so if they're new players, I can just hand them this set. But if they're all experienced, then I don't have to say anything, and it's just a multicolored set of dice. So from there, I have some supports just to hold up the lid as it lays flat, just to make sure it doesn't wobble as players play on it and move around. Then what kind of GM would I be if I didn't have my Think deck? Obviously with these adventures, I'm just going plain out of the book, but just in case, I wanted to have the Think deck with me, plus I can think about things as games go on. Then next up, I've got up here, I've got some old dice boxes. And you'll see that I don't like to carry my dice in these. I carry them in bags because they make so much noise as you're walking around. What I like to do instead is I like to put my paper minis in here. And I've got for each adventure, I've got a set of the heroes paper minis just added, locked out. And so I've gotten a collection of the 6, and those match up with the packs of character sheets that I showed you earlier. And so that way I can pull out the character sheets, I can pull out the set of heroes, and I'll have the character art and the paper minis all in a nice pack I can pull out quickly, prepare for the game. And I've got boxes for Doomvault, for Red Sword, for the extras in Orvold's Tower. And then finally over here, I have my monster minis. I've got things like the Flamekins, I've got the Avenger, I've got Guardian, and I'm just using my template for paper minis, so they include their bases, they include their color ring, the facing direction in case that comes up, and plus I can just print off as many as I want, and without fear of any being destroyed in the process. And so, yeah, once we all finish with that, I can just, once I've pulled out everything for the adventure, lay it back in place. And we're off playing. And so this is my convention DM kit in a box. I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be a great tool. I probably overdid it and I could have gotten away with much less, but this makes me feel more secure knowing that I've got so much prepared without going too far overboard. I'm not bringing everything in the kitchen sink. I just prepared what I needed for the 3 adventures that I'm running. And so yeah, I'll have links for everything that I talked about or referenced in the description. But I'll let you know how the convention goes this week, and that's a wrap.